I'm Taylor Parsons, Miss Lexington, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Good evening. It is evening, right? I forget. Good evening, everyone. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project. My special guest for tonight is Taylor Parsons, who is Miss Lexington 2023. Taylor, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing so well. I'm so happy to be on with you this evening.
What's the weather like? Let's start with the easy question because I'm on the other side, the other hemisphere. So we're going into what
Yeah.
you would call fall. You guys are going into spring. So what's the weather like for you in Tennessee?
Yeah, so it's actually been super beautiful today. I think it was like 70 degrees, sun was
Oh, wow.
shining. So I live in East Tennessee, so I'm in the mountains. So even whenever it is like spring and summer, it's still really warm, but it's not as warm as like the South, like Florida and Georgia and Alabama gets. But we still get pretty warm here, and today was one of those beautiful days. But my allergies are a little iffy right now. I think I sound a little funny when I talk, but that's what you get when you get the good warm weather.
So where you're at, it's East Tennessee, and recently I've been interviewing a lot of girls from Tennessee, and it sounds beautiful. You said it's not as hot as the South. I was in Texas last July, and I can confirm 110 degrees every day. When
Yeah.
you walked outside, you were hit by it felt like a wall of just warm, hot air. How hot does it get in Tennessee?
Yeah, so where I'm from, normally like 80s, 90s. On the like mid-June, you'll get like a 90-degree day. But other than that, we stay like 70s, 80s, 90s, like right within there. Nothing too crazy hot like Texas weather, but we are pretty warm. Now, as further like west you go in Tennessee, it does get warmer, but I am very, very close to the state line. I'm about 15 minutes away from both Virginia and North Carolina, which is really cool.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Is Tennessee as beautiful as I've been led to believe?
I do. I do believe that I live in one of the most beautiful states in the United States. We have mountains, very flat land in the western part of Tennessee. I think our cities are really pretty, and just the landscape is so beautiful. I would love to just like insert a photo of just like mountains and show you, because like the pictures that you see on like Google stock photos, like that is what it looks like here.
That's good to know. What is Tennessee known for? Like every state, it seems in America has like an official food, an official animal, and then like a slogan. What is Tennessee known for?
Yeah, so we're the volunteer state.
That's right.
Go Vols. Yeah, that's super big. I do go to like one, I guess, the rival schools when it comes to like academics in East Tennessee, because the University of Tennessee is in Knoxville, Tennessee, and then I go to East Tennessee State University, which is in Johnson City. So they're about an hour and 15 minutes away from each other. So kind of rival schools there with people going different places. But our state animal is a raccoon. Our state flower is an iris. And I would say that we're known
Wow.
for country music. So I'm sure you've heard of Nashville, right? Tennessee. Yes. Okay. So that is like country music. You're going to get Broadway, like absolutely amazing food places. There's like piano bars downtown where people can go and like
Oh,
become
wow.
discovered, which is super cool. I'm not old enough to go to any of those places. I've just heard from my friends. They're super cool. But yeah, there's a lot of opportunity in Nashville, from the film industry, music industry, to even pageantry. There's a lot of great opportunities that come out of our capital.
Yeah, I remember now. I thought Tennessee was known as the volunteer state, Go Vols, because I interviewed
Yeah.
Presley Pettico, and in her bio she wrote
Mhm.
Go Vols, and she was impressed that apparently
Yes.
I pronounced it correctly. And then I
Yes.
interviewed, I think Bailey Guy, I think is from Nashville.
Yeah, two
So
great
yes,
girls.
obviously country music. Let me just read out the bios. So for people who aren't familiar with you, the bio that you sent through. So Taylor is a talented performer and aspiring attorney, currently pursuing a degree in political science with a pre-law interest, as you said, at East Tennessee State University. As a former national champion clogger and athlete, Taylor is no stranger to the spotlight and has a strong desire to excel in everything she does. Her quiet public speaking and interview skills from her current role as a pageant girl will undoubtedly serve her well as she works towards her dream of becoming a Juris Doctor. She is inspired by women before her who have shattered glass ceilings in the legal field, such as Avrie Bishop, I don't know, have I pronounced that correctly? Avrie, or was it
Yeah,
Avrie?
Avrie Bishop, Avrie.
Avrie Bishop, JD, and Sydney Park, JD. With her strong will and determination, Taylor is poised to follow in their footsteps and make a difference in the world of law. And you can follow Taylor on social. You can see, well, actually, no, you can't see because I haven't brought it up because I'm not with it today. Let me bring up Taylor's Instagram handle there at the Taylor Parsons. And on TikTok, it's the same, but with the O replaced by a 0.
Yes.
Now, I was going through your bio. Obviously, I received it prior to the interview. And the first thing that struck me, apart from the attorney, was champion clogger. Now, prior to this morning, I did not know what a clogger was. When I see that, the first thing I think of is the arteries in your heart. It's what happens when you eat too much fried food, as in they get clogged. Then I looked it up and I read the description. And I have some very good friends in Ireland, and one of them is a competitive Irish dancer. And when I read the description of clogging, I thought, that sounds exactly like Irish dancing. And then I went down a bit of a rabbit hole and I read this article. What's the difference between clogging, Irish dancing, and then basically like river dance, tap dance, and all of that? So I know a little bit more now, but can you tell people, because I imagine I'm not the only one who's unfamiliar with clogging, what is clogging?
Yeah, so I get asked this question multiple times a day whenever people find out that I'm a clogger. Even people in Tennessee. It's very rich in the Appalachian Mountain region. It's huge. I've clogged since I was 4 years old, and I've been very fortunate to be trained in Boone, North Carolina, and Bristol, Virginia, which are two awesome places, very rich in history as well. But clogging, I would say it's a lot like tap dancing, but the shoes are different. So like on a tap shoe, like here's the sole of the shoe, and then like the taps are glued directly to the shoe. For clogging, you get two sounds with each like tap that's glued to the shoe. So you've got a tap and they're just screwed kind of like this. So you'll get a click click noise on the front, and then the back one is just stuck to the bottom like a normal tap shoe. So technically you're getting like three sounds instead of just the two, which is really cool. And yeah, it is a lot like tap dancing, but there's different styles. You've got contemporary and traditional. Growing up, I love dancing traditional, like hoedowns in the barn, but places such as like the Maggie Valley, North Carolina barn. I have such great memories there. And it's just such like a tradition, I would say. And older people do it, younger people do it. And I love to see little girls want to grow up and learn to clog, because it is such a special thing, because not a lot of people know what it is. Not a lot of people are familiar with it. But I would say that it's a good mix of like the raising your knees with like Irish dancing, and then getting those sounds in with tap dancing.
If I understand correctly, because Irish dancing it kind of looks a bit stiff from the waist up. And again, this is from my research this morning.
Yeah.
Literally, you are not allowed to move your arms. So you'll see these girls, very elegant, very agile on their toes, but their arms are sort of stuck to their side. Clogging isn't like that, though, because I was going through your social and I saw a photo. I think you are like 3 feet in the air, clicking your heels together and your arms are raised. So I imagine you don't have the same restrictions in clogging.
No, you don't. So there are different styles of clogging. So like if you were like, it's mainly more focused on your footwork though. So there's flat footing where like your feet don't come off the ground. And then with contemporary, like that's the style that I dance whenever I compete in pageantry. Your feet do come off the ground more because you want those like very showy routines that really draw people in. And then with traditional clogging, you normally have a duo partner, or there's a big group on stage with you. And it's a lot of like hand movements, a lot of like holding hands with your partner and spins and fun things like that. So it's really cool. There's a lot of different, I guess, branches, I guess is a good word to use, of clogging. And it's neat because it just involves so many different areas and backgrounds of dancing, and it just kind of is meshed together in one. And there's a large group of people who do it, which is super cool.
Is it something that you would do socially? Like when I was in Texas, I didn't get to do this, but everyone was saying you have to go line dancing. So I don't know if that's a stereotype or that it's actually true. Like someone said, you can go to this bar and do line dancing. I never got to find out. But is clogging something you can do socially? Because you said you've got this special type of shoe. So I imagine you don't just walk around with that shoe and then go to a bar. Not that you can at this stage, but so is it something that socially people do?
It's actually not something socially that people do. Normally, you're just going to find this at clogging competitions or conventions. And I mentioned the barn at Maggie Valley, and that is a big clogging competition that a lot of people will come to, which is super cool. But no, it's not like line dancing, but line dancing is a thing. There's actually a place in Knoxville, Tennessee that you can go line dancing at, which is super fun. And it is very big in Texas. Wear your cowgirl boots, cowboy boots, and get out there and line dance.
Feel like I have to revisit and go line dancing because it's something I didn't get to do. Although
You
I don't
have
know about
to.
doing it at 110-degree heat.
That sounds like a really, really difficult workout.
Well, I mean, it's good to get into shape, isn't it? But how did you
It
get into clogging in the first place? Because
Yeah.
again, this is from reading through your stuff. I know it's not the only sport you do. You do more, let's say, conventional sports, basketball and tennis. How
Mhm.
how did you get introduced into the world of clogging?
Yeah, so when I was 4 years old, my mom put me in dance, and I started out in tap and ballet. And in tap, I
Wow.
was raising my knees up off the floor a lot in tap. I wasn't wanting to keep my feet on the ground. And my teacher was like, maybe you should like put her in clogging. And ballet was very slow paced, and I'm a very like fast paced
Yes.
girl. I want to get it done. I want the fast music. So I went and tried out a clogging class, and I told my mom, I was like, I'm done with tap and ballet. I was like, I want to clog. So since I was 4 years old, I've been clogging, and I've fallen in love with it. I don't compete on a team anymore just because I am so busy with college. I'm a part of several student-led organizations, and I'm very big in the community, but it is something that I still do for solos, for pageantry, and I absolutely love it. It's a great workout, and it's also something cool to learn and cool to like have within me. And if I ever do have a little girl one day, or a little boy who wants to clog, I think that would be so cool to be able to pass that down and be able to do that with them.
I saw a YouTube video of, I think there was someone it was a video from the 1950s, people clogging, and then I saw a video that was like 5 years ago that they were clogging to a much more recent piece of music. Do you have a favorite song to clog to? And when you come up with like, how do you come up with a routine? How long does that take?
Yeah, so my favorite song to clog to is "The Devil Went Down to Georgia." I'm actually competing with
Okay.
that dance at Miss Tennessee this summer. I've competed with it before. We revamped it a little bit, which I'm really excited about. But I just love that dance. I feel like whenever you do well with a song and you just have this routine that you just fall in love with, and especially songs that tell stories are my favorite.
Yeah.
So "The Devil Went Down to Georgia" tells this great story about how this little old fiddler can defeat the devil in a fiddle competition. And I think that's so great. And it just shares such a good message that really you can do anything that you set your mind to as long as you have the willpower and the drive to do it. So whenever I dance that dance, I'm so far out of breath whenever I finish because it's a minute and 30 seconds of pure, intense dancing, but
Yeah.
it's so much fun. I would say that that's my favorite one, though, that I've ever clogged to. And I'm really excited to bring it back this summer at Miss Tennessee.
I love that song because I play the violin and I'm getting back into it. And I've trained classical violin and I was like, I want to learn the fiddle. And the first song that I thought of, and everyone goes, you got to play Devil Went Down to Georgia. And so I
Yes.
found the sheet music and I've been practicing it. I don't know how much fun you get from dancing to it, but I'll tell you, it's fun to play as well. I don't know. There's something about
Yeah.
the words, as you said, it tells a story. Playing it on the
Yeah.
fiddle is super fun as well. So I really want to see your performance only because I could be playing the fiddle to it.
Good.
Um, did you know that there was a sequel to that song though? That's the thing.
I did not know there was a wait. I don't know if I knew there was a sequel or not. I know the Charlie Daniels band. Are you talking about the one that the Charlie Daniels band produced?
Yes, and then he
Yes.
was in the
Okay.
sequel as well. Someone wrote "The
Okay.
Devil Came Back to Georgia," and it's basically a
Okay.
similar story and had Charlie Daniels in it just before he passed away, I think. But it's
Okay.
uh, it's the next chapter in that storyline. I don't think it's quite as good as "The Devil Came Down to Georgia,"
Okay.
but yeah, most people don't know
Mhm.
there's actually a sequel to it as
Yeah,
well that
I've done
has
a
Charlie
lot of
Daniels in it.
research. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I have never heard of that. That's crazy. I actually just had to do some research on the song. I love to know things. I think that's why I want to be an attorney. I like love to know if someone says something, I'm the first one to pull my phone out and be like, okay, let's Google it. So I was just looking up some things, just the lyrics, and just trying to like reel myself in before I went and practiced my dance the other day. And I was looking at all of the other great songs that the Charlie Daniels band produced, and I just
Mm,
think it's so cool because the majority of their songs, like even the instruments, whenever they're just being played, they just tell such a story. Even when there's no
yeah.
lyrics, it's just like, man, there's just something about your heart. It's like, oh man, we gotta keep listening to this.
I think it's the same as you said. Ballet is a bit slow paced for yourself, and obviously ballet is
Mhm.
very classical, very formal.
Very
I
beautiful.
think I think for myself, classical violin is the same. It's kind of like the ballet, but fiddle is more like, I don't know, like the clogging. It's more energetic. It's
Yeah.
less formal, but you do get to see more of the person's soul or tell more of a story. I think because you can be
Mhm.
more flamboyant. Um,
Right.
but if you like interesting facts, Charlie Daniels, so that song, Devil Went Down to Georgia, it's in one of those video games where you have to play, I think it's play the guitar or something like that, and you have to hit the right chords at the right time, and then you win. And that song, Devil Went Down to Georgia, was the final song in that game when you're facing off against the final boss, who is the devil himself.
Wow.
And what Charlie Daniels did not like is that you as a player can actually lose that final battle to the devil.
Oh,
He
no.
really didn't like that at all, because he said the whole moral of the story was that the fiddler, beats the devil. So he really
Yeah.
didn't like the possibility that you could lose to the devil in that game.
Oh,
So
no. That's hilarious. That's so good to know, though. I'm glad you didn't like that because I think that kind of goes with what we were saying with like how the story just kind of plays and how inspiring the song really is, even though it is like an old folk country song. I think
mm.
it's so great. I absolutely love that about it.
Well, I mean, it's such a famous song, isn't it? I mean, it's not like the
Gosh.
people who know Devil Went Down to Georgia, because everyone was saying, when I said I was going to start learning the fiddle, any suggestions, everyone was saying Devil Went Down to Georgia. And it's not violin players, it's not fiddle players, it's not people from Georgia, it's not even people from the United States. Everyone knows that
Everyone.
song. So it's really strange sometimes there are songs that just transcend boundaries and everyone hooks onto them. Everyone loves
Yeah.
them. But I would love to watch your performance just because I love that song.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
have to send it to you this summer. That's definitely something that I'll do. I love sharing clogging, and then you'll get to see another video of someone clogging, which will be cool.
it'd be so cool if I could perform it live on stage whilst you're
I
clogging. 'Cause
know, that would be
I
so
never, I never thought of
awesome.
that. I had this weird like pipe dream, like, oh, I'm going to learn how to play that song, and then I'll be on the stage one day playing the fiddle. Who
That would
knows?
be
Who
so
knows?
cool. Hey, one day, you never know.
One day. I just want to go a little bit more into your sports background, and then we'll circle around to the
Yeah,
pageant stuff and the service stuff, because I know you're super busy with that and you've done a lot. I have to ask, you're on the basketball team. Are you tall?
I am. So I'm not on the basketball team anymore. I played
No, I
basketball
know.
growing up,
Yeah.
yeah, in high school. But yeah, so I'm 5'9" and a half, flat-footed. And then when you add like 3, 4 inch heels, I do stand over 6 foot most days whenever I'm wearing heels, whether I'm at my internship or at pageant appearances.
Okay. Now, I found an old-ish news article on the tomahawk.com. See, this is what happens when you Google people's names. And it talked about you
Yes.
holding a tennis racket. I mean, the photo was you holding a tennis racket, and that caught my eye because I used to be a tennis coach and I love tennis.
Okay.
And so I want to ask you about tennis. But before that, it mentioned some kind of horror story that you still have nightmares about a particular basketball game. Is it she
Oh
also
my
has
goodness, there's
nightmares
so
of the
many.
basketball team? Says she also has nightmares of the basketball team losing in the regional tournament at South Green in a game she said they should have won. And it quotes you as saying, "We have played them and should have won the game. I get sick every time that I think of it and what could have been. We can all look back one day and feel good that we were part of history. It still doesn't ease the pain." What game was that?
Yes.
That's
So,
traumatic.
very dramatic. I sound very dramatic in that article
You
too.
do. You sound like you're living with the pain every
I
day.
know, it's like this everyday thing. My high school basketball team, I went to a super small high school. I graduated with like 120-ish people, so a very
Right.
small town. But we went to the regional championship, and this was like the first time in like over 20 years that this had happened. And our girls basketball team did not have a lot of respect at my school just because, we didn't really
Right.
go that far. No one had ever been super serious about going and playing anywhere. So it's kind of like, what's the point? Well, my freshman year of high school, my best friends and I, we were like, we are going to make history. And our senior year, we got the opportunity to go to the regional championship after we beat out one of our rival schools in our district. And we show up and we were like, we're going to win. We can do this. We were ready. We were prepared. And it was the fourth quarter. I will never forget this. And one of the girls was just dribbling the ball down the basketball court and she shot the ball after we were up by 3 points.
Right.
and she went to shoot the ball. She misses the shot. The other team gets the rebound because it was a long rebound. And I remember they were already halfway down the court. They went and shot a layup and got fouled. And they made their foul shot. So we were tied. We were tied throwing the ball in. I remember they were pressing us, and the other girls, they got the ball from us. They went and shot a 3-pointer. We were down by 3. There was like 2 seconds left. Like we were not coming back. And we ended up losing that game. That was the end of my senior year basketball career. Very heartbreaking. It was not something that I was proud of at all. I remember just sitting in the locker room, just like, no one speak to me. I was like, I can't believe this is over. Is this really how it's going to end? I remember looking at my best friends and I was like, we were going to make history. Like we were headed to the state tournament and it was over just like that. And I remember, I think it took me till, I guess, last year to finally just kind of get over it whenever someone would mention basketball, because I wanted nothing to do with basketball. I was like, I'm done. I was like, I don't even want to play intramurals. I was like, this is awful. I was like, I cannot stand to lose. I'm a very competitive person when it comes to sports.
Clearly.
And I think that showed me. And hearing how dramatic I sounded in that newspaper article just goes to show that I was very competitive.
It's amazing. It's not surprising, but it's amazing, isn't it, that you can remember the details so clearly, like the play by play. As I said, I play a lot of tennis and I'm very competitive not really in general, but particularly in sport. I mean, I don't think anyone likes losing. I mean, why would you like losing? I think that's an excuse.
Right.
But
exactly.
When you said you were up by 3, I was like, well, you can't lose from 3, even if they shot a 3, they had a layup and hit a foul. And then you were tied. Then they hit a 3-pointer. Did you have the ball when there were 2 seconds left? Someone must have, if you had, just throw a half-court shot, no? Try something desperate.
We did. I remember, I think it was the same girl who had shot the ball previously. I think she went to half court maybe on the side and threw it up.
Yeah.
It might not have been her. I don't know. I think that's what happened. Like after they had shot that 3-pointer and made it, I just completely checked out. I was like, I'm done. I was like, all right, it's over. I was like, it's over. And I remember, I don't think I spoke the whole car ride home with my mom. I think my whole family was in the car and I sat in the very back the whole way home, stretched my legs out. And it was like a 2-hour car ride. And I was like, I'm done. I was like, I'm finished. No one speak to me. Tears are just streaming down my face. And I was like, this is how it ends. Like I said, very dramatic. But it was something, that had been. Go ahead.
Have you touched a basketball since then, or have you been able to look at a basketball?
I have. I did end up playing intramurals last year and this year, and funnily enough, in the championship this year, I played on a co-ed team. We did lose, I think, by either 3 or 5 points in triple overtime. Yes, so that was very heart-wrenching too. It was one of those man, is it ever going to be my turn? But it's okay.
Well, it doesn't look like it's okay. You're saying it's okay, but your head is shaking, and I think your jaw is still clenched. So, tell me about this, though. You said you're very competitive in sport. Does it translate to other parts of your life as well?
I would say yes in academics. That is something that I'm very competitive with, but I'm competitive with myself. I always want to do better than I did on the last test. I believe my freshman year of college, when it was COVID and everything was completely online, it was a huge transition for me. That was whenever I realized, it's not my grades against someone else's. It's solely me, and I'm competing against no one else. There's no one else's name on my transcript. It's totally mine. And realizing that my grades don't define me was something that was huge for me, because in high school, I was an honors student. I was involved in 900 different things. And then you come to college and it's just the whole world was shut down. So then sophomore year came around and we were able to be half virtual, half in person. And that was a huge transition for me. And I think it was my sophomore year of college where I realized you know what, as long as you're improving on your own timeline, that's all that matters. But I would definitely say that I was very, very competitive with my academics in high school against, other people with other scores. And when I finally realized it was solely mine and mine only, that's whenever my grades did start to skyrocket. And I would say these past 2 semesters have been absolutely amazing for me, which is kind of like a breath of fresh air, because I don't think anyone really talks about how difficult college can be and how difficult that transition can be, going to, a high school that had 125 people to a college class class alone that has 125 people. So it
Yeah.
is a huge transition, but being able to realize kind of like, my grades don't define me, but I still can be competitive with myself. And as long as I'm
Mm.
improving, that's what matters. That's been huge for me.
Well, I think that's a really good attitude to take, not only with your academics, but certainly even in sport, although it can be harder in sport because obviously the scoreboard doesn't lie at the end, does
Oh,
it?
yeah.
But
When
pageantry,
everyone sees that scoreboard.
yeah, because pageantry, there's scoring often, but obviously it's much more subjective. Whereas basketball
Right.
or tennis, it's much more objective. Ball went through the hoop or
Yeah.
it didn't. Ball landed in the court or it
Exactly.
didn't. I'd be remiss not to ask you about tennis because I love tennis. That's like my sport. I play it every week.
Okay.
Absolutely love killing myself doing it. Tell me about tennis. Do you still play tennis? Do you have any more traumatic stories like you have with basketball, or is tennis a little bit more laid back?
Tennis was definitely more laid back for me. So I actually didn't start tennis until my sophomore year of high school. And I still play some just like recreationally. I'm not on any teams, which I think is good for my very competitive side, just to kind of go and hit with
Yeah.
a couple friends. I absolutely fell in love with tennis though my sophomore year. My high school history teacher was the one who asked me to be on the team. He was like, I think this would be great for you. And I was
Mm.
like, I don't know, this seems kind of difficult. And I had never, used a racket, hitting a ball over a net. I was like, what is this? Didn't realize how difficult it was to not just launch the ball over the net, that you have to be super controlled. It was very hard for me
Yes.
to learn, but once I learned, it was great. My sophomore year, I ended up being rookie of the year for our district, which was super cool.
Wow.
And I think we ended up going to sub-states. Yeah, I ended up going to sub-states my first year playing tennis, which was cool. So that was like in basketball, if we would have went to like won that regional game, we would have went to sub-state, and then we would have eventually
Wow.
went on to
Okay.
states after that. So I was kind of
Yeah.
like one step away, I guess, from the state championship my first year ever playing tennis. I practiced a lot. I love being outside. It's one of my favorite things, just go on the tennis court and hit with a couple friends. Even at college, it's super
Mm.
relaxing for me. And
Yeah.
it's a sport I know that I would be able to play for the rest of my life. And I just kind of wanted to be able to do that and take it leisurely and go and do as best as I can. And so then I guess my junior year, I ended up playing too. And that was super cool. That was awesome. We did the same thing, I guess, my junior year, sub-states again. And we hosted them in our school that year. And then my senior year
Great.
sadly did get cut off due to COVID. So that was
Uh,
very sad because I think it was the week before tennis practice was about to start. We got an announcement over our intercom at school saying, you guys are out for
oh
2 weeks. And then that 2 weeks turned into obviously a global pandemic. So that was a little
no.
difficult. I think the closure there was a little hard, but going and hitting on the courts whenever I can is always super fun. And I absolutely enjoyed tennis, and bus rides with my teammates was so much fun.
Yeah, tennis is not something that you can do virtually. There are a lot of things you can do
No.
virtually over a Zoom call. Tennis and sport doesn't work so well.
Yeah.
I just need to know because I love tennis. So, what's your best shot? Well, first off, are you
Oh,
right-handed or left-handed?
I'm right-handed, but I was
Okay.
good with like, is it overhand hit? Yeah, I'm not
Yep.
like technical terms. I was terrible at a backhand, so I would use my left hand for a backhand hit, just because I can't. I am ambidextrous, so I can write with my right and my left hand. That is something that I could do. So whenever I told my coach about that, like he remembered that from the classroom, and I could not get my backhand. I don't know why, but I could not turn my body and hit the ball without it
Yep.
flying either behind me or 100 feet like left or right of me. And he was like, just
Yeah.
put it in your left hand and hit it. So I remember like I would just switch my racket to my left hand and I would hit it, or I would stop a ball that was coming at me. So that worked. And that was like a fun little fact. And I remember other coaches would be like watching me and they're like, what are you doing? And I'm just like, don't question, it works. And that's what we're gonna do.
I'm jealous of that because being ambidextrous would be one of the best attributes to have on a
Yeah.
tennis court because for most, the forehand is the bigger weapon. It's the bigger, faster shot, the better shot. So you basically doing what you did sounds like you had two forehands and no backhand.
Yes, sir. I did not have a backhand. I know if my coach, like old coach, like watches this, he's gonna be like, yeah, she did not have a backhand.
Were you trying to hit it with two hands or one hand on your backhand?
Two hands, because I tried the one-handed thing and they would just like fly behind me. And like I said, it was very difficult for me to pick up. But once I got it, I got it.
It sounds like power is not a problem for you. Sounds like there's plenty of power. Sounds like the control might have been more of an
Control
issue.
was the issue.
let me segue, because I mean, you accomplished in basketball, you were accomplished in tennis, and it sounds like you were a late starter. So it wasn't like you'd been practicing since the age of 2. So there seems to be quite a lot of natural athletic talent there. And then we segue into pageantry, where obviously you've done well. And I've seen your Instagram. You seem to be doing so much service, which I think really, I don't know if it necessarily sets the Miss America organization apart, but it certainly, from my experience interviewing over 300 pageant girls, there's a big difference between someone who talks a good game and then someone who's actually out there doing it every day. And I have a lot of respect for the young women who are out there doing things. Like, I think you had Red, the Red with blood and donating blood. I think that was one of your big advocacies earlier on. But how do you, and then obviously the role models that you mentioned, I looked them up because I wasn't familiar with them before. Those women are killing it. Like, one of them is an international nonprofit founder and marathon runner, and these are not women who would have a lot of spare time. So I guess my question for you is, on a daily basis, like, what's your life like? Because you seem to be cramming a lot of life into, well, you have crammed a lot of life into your 20 years so far on this world.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. It's so funny. I was actually just talking to one of my best friends about that just a few minutes before I got on a call with you. I was just like, man, I just was sitting there today in one of my classes and I just kind of took a deep breath and I was like, man, like, you've done a lot, like, just today. And I was sitting there thinking, I was like, you've done a lot within like the past 5 years. And I feel like in those times where I'm sitting still, I get to realize, these immense blessings that I've gotten to experience and these just really cool opportunities, these awesome people that I've gotten to meet because I've put myself out there and because I've wanted to meet new people and because I've wanted to, give me the opportunity, like, let me have it and I will run with it and I will do everything that I can to accomplish my goals as well as yours. And it's just been something for me, I think, from a very young age. My mom always told me, if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk. And she would always tell me when I'm walking the walk to let God lead the way. And every door that's supposed to open for me will open. And the ones that don't, I clearly know that they were not meant to be. So on a day-to-day life for me, I will normally wake up. If I'm working out in the morning, I'll wake up pretty early. But if I don't work out in the morning, I normally have an 8 o'clock wake up time. If I'm going to school, and then I'll go to school, I take 19 credit hours a week. So I am very busy with school. School is very important to me. I try my best to get as many academic scholarships as I can, and competing with the Miss America organization is the leading scholarship provider for women ages 18 to 28 in America, which I think is so empowering in itself. And it just makes me want to work 10 times harder no matter what I'm doing. And then I'm actually planning a fashion show, which I'm super excited about this summer, benefiting the American Red Cross and the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. I'm pairing with an organization in Johnson City, Tennessee, and we're just going to raise awareness for blood donation, the American Red Cross, and Zoe, the girl that I'm pairing up with. She advocates for the Cerebral Palsy Foundation, and I met her through pageantry. So my days have been consumed a lot by getting sponsors, getting boutiques for the girls to model. I think we have, I know there's like over 60 girls that I think are modeling for us. There were like over, I'm wanting to say like 100 girls that applied to model, which was super awesome. Wow. So that's been a lot, and making sure that we have boutiques lined up. I do a lot of Miss Tennessee paperwork and prep. I'm gearing up, for the job of Miss Tennessee this summer, and that could be something that the Lord has in store for me. And I know that if I don't work for that, then that's something that's not in my future. But if I'm working hard for these things, then I'll be prepared for when the time is right for it to come. So every day I'll do some interview prep on my own, or I'm working with some coaches, or I'll get my friends to ask me some questions for interview. I always walk in my heels. I love heels. I love fashion, anything to do with clothing. I love it. So I'll do that. And I've gotten like really close, like into meal prepping. I love doing that at the beginning of the week because it's something that I don't have to worry about. I don't have to be like, where do I want to go get food from? Because I just have it in my bag, which is super nice. And then that feels like I'm prepared. And I do lead a freshman small group. Every Monday night, I go to my co-partner's house and we lead a small group together, which is super cool. And I get to mentor these freshmen on ETSU's campus. And I love that. And then we all attend a worship service together on Wednesday nights. So my weeks are very jam-packed. I do make time to spend time with friends, go on ice cream dates, and just have a good time and enjoy my 20s, because I know that I'm only 21, and I'll be 21 in Miss Tennessee this year, which will be super cool. I turned 21, I think, the third day that we're there, so that'll be a really
Yeah.
cool way to spend my birthday. But just staying busy, and even in the moments where I am super stressed out, or I'm like, man, Lord, like, I can't do this. Like, you've got to take something away from me, or like, I need to know if this is truly like what you want me to do. He always provides, and he always comes through. And I just think that that's so beautiful, because it's just been shown so evident in my life.
I want to dig into that a little bit, because I've mentioned in a few previous interviews, I took the time out last year to read the entire Bible from beginning to end. It was something that I had always wanted to do. I didn't quite know why. And growing up, I wouldn't say that I was religious. I went to church when I was probably 10, 11, 12. Our parents made us go to church every Sunday, which is why I think I resented it a little bit as a young kid. You don't want to be sitting still
Right.
in a church, at least I didn't. But then I found something, I can't quite word it, but reading the entire Bible from beginning to end, it was a transformative experience for myself. I want to ask one silly question and then a more serious question. But the silly question is, you talked about God, closing some doors and then leaving some open. Did you remember that when you lost that basketball game, though?
I didn't. And I think that that's very evident, It's like, man, if you'd have only remembered that one
Yeah.
simple thing that you're told every day, like, I wouldn't have been as dramatic as I was in that newspaper interview. And I think like, life going on for that next probably year and a half, 2 years would have been a whole lot easier.
Right. And then the more serious question, because I've been asking everyone that I know who has studied the Bible, I ask them this, because it seems to me one of the morals from the Bible is that the secret to a life of fulfillment and happiness and joy is to walk the path that God lays out for you, right?
Right.
And you don't always know what that path is going to be, and sometimes it's different to what you thought it was going. Well, often, always, it's different to what you thought it was going to be. But given that that's so important, walking the path that's been laid out for you, my question is, how do you know when you're on the path? Because, like, for example, you could have said, oh, my path is to win this basketball game and then go to this tournament here and win that and be this champion, state champions, or similar with tennis. And then we had a worldwide pandemic hit. So obviously things didn't go according to plan, but it is God's plan, so to speak. So how do you know when you're walking the right path?
Yeah, I honestly don't think that it's something that's super difficult to know. I do believe personally that whenever you're on the path that God has in store for you, then doors are just going to fly open. And I feel like I'm living in that moment right now. I made a really big decision back in January, and it's really kind of shaped my relationship with Christ. And it's also shaped the things that have happened to me in the past couple of months. So I was able to apply to be a Giovanni It Girl back in, I guess, January. And I found out that I was accepted to go to Atlanta, Georgia, and model for Giovanni in March, which was a door that I had been knocking on for the past 3 years. And I was like, Lord, whenever the time's right, like, do it. And I would be so upset whenever, I wouldn't get that call back. And it was so many other things in my life. It was just like, man, if only that would have happened. But whenever this happened this time, I'm so glad you said that you're studying the book of the Bible, like that you studied the books of the Bible in order, because I'm doing that this year. So I'm not going in order. I'm studying a Bible plan. And whenever I got the call back from Giovanni, I'm studying the book of Exodus. And I was reading about how Moses, had to lead these people out of Israel, but he had to trust in the Lord to part the Red Sea. And that story to me just stands out, because they were standing in front of this large body of water. And I feel like that's how we are. We're standing in front of this thing called life. And sometimes we don't know which way to go, but the Lord put his hand in the middle of the Red Sea and he parted it and said, go this way. And I just think that that's so beautiful, because every day he does that for us as if we're asking him and we're seeking him. Moses continually sought the Lord while he didn't think he was fit for the job. 9 times out of 10, the opportunities that come my way, I don't think I'm fit for. While I say outward, I'm like, Lord, I'm ready. Like, give them to me. Let me be like a way maker in this generation. 9 times out of 10, I'm not ready. But he's the one that has to put his hand in it and be like, hey, girl, like, follow this path. follow me and I will make sure that you're ready. I will make sure that your needs are met. So, Moses went through the Red Sea with all of the Israelites and they came out on the other side and they were in the wilderness that they didn't know where to go. But the Lord provided day in and day out. And I think that's how because his provisions are always saw through. So I believe that whenever you are receiving these blessings and you just feel like very content, even in all of the chaos that's going on around you, that's how you know. And I think that that's how he does show us, because we do have Bible stories to look back on, just like Moses and him parting the Red Sea and leading them out.
Did it frustrate you at all, as I said, reading through the Bible, because the time, and similar to yourself, I didn't necessarily, I read it in order, but I had a Bible reading plan, and the Bible plan put it in chronological order, which is not strictly speaking, the same order that it's printed in the Bible. But did it ever strike you how frustrating it was that the Israelites, even after being led to the promised land, so to speak, they kept making the same mistakes over and over again? Like, the big one that really struck me was worshiping false gods. Like, how many times did you need to do that before you learn your lesson? Did that strike you at all? Because I'm reading it going, what, you're doing this again? You saw how badly it ended up last time, and you're doing it again. Like, why?
Right. And that struck me as well. And I think, them worshiping the golden calf, that was what got me, because I feel like in today's world, like, we want the gold, we want the thing that's pretty, and we chase after that. And in pageantry, I feel like, me last year, 2 years ago, right after I gave up Miss Tennessee's Outstanding Teen title, like, I wanted the gold. I wanted that Miss America crown. And that's what my eyes were set on. And I would say back in January, I realized, I was like, Taylor, your eyes must be set on the Lord, and then all of these great things will be added to you, because he literally tells us, like, seek ye first the kingdom of God and all these things will be added to you. It's not seek ye first the golden calf, not seek ye first the Miss America crown, not seek ye first that basketball game. It's seek me first. And I just think it's crazy that they did that over and over again, but we do that day in and day out. And we literally have a book called the Bible that tells us what to do and what not to do if we read the pages. But that's human nature. And I'm a firm believer that the Lord, he knows what we're going to do. I'm a firm believer that he has planned our days out long before we were ever born. And he knows the decisions that we're going to make, but he also knows the decisions that we're going to make to lead others towards him. And I think that in those times that we're in a rut, that's whenever we can come out more on top and more closer to him than ever, because we see that he brought us through that. Just like, he obviously had to show them who was boss and who was the king, but the Israelites did finally realize, like, oh, hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. And Moses was, I think, one of the greatest leaders in biblical times to be able to put up with that and just still have such a heart seeking God.
Well, it's faith, isn't it? Even, he led his people through a desert, like a literal desert, and then they were blocked by the sea, the ocean, for all intents and purposes. You've mentioned a couple of times you made a big sort of life-affirming or reaffirming decision in January, and you're only 20 now. So it's not like it's a half-life or even a quarter-life crisis necessarily. Was there anything in particular that led you to that sort of revelation?
Yeah, I would say that it was a decision, that I've been thinking about probably since like late September of 2022. And it was one of, who I needed to be in my circle and who I didn't need to be in my circle at the time being. And I also realized that I can't pour more into other people than I'm willing to pour into myself. And I definitely felt like my cup was running out, and I knew that I had to make a change. I was able to go to Passion, which is a huge, just like college convention, I would say, where speakers such as Sadie Robertson, Tim Tebow, Jackie Hill Perry, they will speak. And it was a 3-day convention. And I remember sitting there on the second day and I was praying and I said, Lord, I was like, I need to know what I need to do. I was like, do I, move on from these people, or do I stay and witness? I was like, because I'm so lost. I remember closing my eyes and I was sitting at this table with Jesus, and it was a brown table. We were in this yellow room and there was a vase on the table and it was just so still. I remember he was sitting on the other side and I was like, do I leave him? And I was like, do I stay? And I was like, I need to know what I need to do. And I was like, do I go or no? And he just looked at me and shook his head. And he was like, you got to go. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, I'm going to need you to help me because I'm not going to be able to
Mm.
look them in the eyes and be like, I got to go. So
Yeah.
that night I made that decision and I was like, all right, Lord, like I'm going to be all in with you. I was like, but I need your help getting out of this situation first. And it was something that was huge for me. And I was able to do that and see that through because of him. And since then, like I said, the doors that have been opened have been absolutely crazy. And just seeking him first and pouring into him and realizing, like, the more I read my Bible, the more that I'm getting these great sermons from people or listening to a podcast in my car instead of, listening
Mm.
to other music that I would necessarily be listening to. That's what, builds the kingdom of God because that's building me to be a better disciple. And how can I disciple these freshmen if I'm not like letting the Lord disciple me? And that was huge for
Mm.
me. I was like, if I'm going to be a leader, I'm going to lead by example because I'm huge on that. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that I made that decision. And I'm just really thankful for the people who supported me in that. And were like, you know what, girl, like you chase him and we will be praying for you and seeing what comes out of it.
Yeah. It's I went through and going through something similar to what you described, I guess, in terms of working out where you want your life to go and what you're willing to tolerate and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. And
Yeah.
that sometimes does involve leaving some people behind, not because they're bad people, because I always say it's not for
No,
me to
no.
judge. That's not my
Right.
place.
Yeah.
But in terms of where I feel like I need to go, people who are going to align and be supportive. That doesn't necessarily mean you agree all the time, but they're supportive of the
Right.
overall direction, and they're treading a similar path to yourself. Like you can't run, you can't run west looking, well, you can't run east looking for the sunset, so to speak. Like you
Yeah.
can't go forwards while someone keeps trying to pull you back. But it's difficult, no? It's difficult to leave people behind, and when you've become comfortable with them, even if they're not the most supportive people, but you become comfortable. It's like the pair of old jeans. It's maybe not the best thing on you, but you've worn it so long, it just feels
Right.
really comfortable, and it can be really
Yeah.
difficult to leave it behind, right?
Mhm. That's exactly right. And I think like even with people like that, like they're great people. And I truly believe that the Lord puts everyone in your life for a reason and for a season. And some
Mm.
people's seasons are just shorter than others, and that's okay because the lessons that I've learned and the happy times that I was able to experience were absolutely amazing. And whenever I did leave those people behind, it was just like, you know what, Lord, like guide me, but I also want you to guide them because I want them to be able to
Mm.
experience what I'm experiencing with you right now, because that's where true joy and true love comes from. And that's the only place that you'll find it.
That's an important fact. You don't necessarily want them to fail so
No,
that they can
no,
see how
not at
great
all.
you are, because that's not what you
No.
should be doing. Yeah, that's a good point. But I could talk about that forever because, as I said, after reading the Bible from beginning to end last year, it really sort of, and I didn't know why. It's just something that I had on my list to do probably for the last 5 to 10 years, and I finally did it. I wouldn't say it was easy. I don't know how you're finding it. At parts it was overwhelming, and at
Yeah.
parts you're reading this chapter and you're just like, what am I supposed to get from this? And at some other parts, it struck me, particularly in the Old Testament, that God's really angry sometimes, like properly. And there is a big difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament, particularly when Jesus comes down to earth. But it wasn't an easy read by any means, and I don't think I can do it justice by reading through it once. It's something that I'll have to revisit again. But do you do a little bit of study every day? Is that how you do it? You said you had a plan that you're going through.
Yeah. Yes, I have a plan. I do my best to read every day, and there are days where I'm super busy, and I hate this about it. And
Mm.
I feel the most convicted over, being like, oh man, I missed a day. And there are days where I do have to double up, but I tell myself that
Yeah.
the Lord understands that I'm busy. I'm like, He understands, it's okay. But really, just I guess making that time to do it has been a really big challenge for me because that's been waking up, at 5:30 in the morning and doing it. We're not going to bed until 1 a.m. and making sure that I get it in. And it's just been
Mm.
something very consistent, though, that I want to keep doing. And I feel the need and the desire to implement as a part of my daily life.
Do you have a favorite Bible verse? And do you have what I like to ask, because most people have that, but do you also have a favorite Bible book? So favorite verse and favorite book.
Yeah, so I would say my favorite book is Esther. My
Hmm.
mom just comes to my mind when I read the book of Esther, and the Bible verse, it's like plastered everywhere. It's like, for perhaps you were made for like a moment such as this. And
Mm.
I have a picture, it's a Polaroid of me and my mom right beside that Bible verse. And she's always told me, like the doors that open will open, and if they won't, they won't. But you were made to walk in those doors. And it just reminds me so much of her. She's such a strong woman. She's been through so much, but she always seeks the Lord. And that's something, I hope she doesn't mind me sharing her age. She's like 53, but she looks like not a day over like 30, and she's beautiful, but you can just like see her inner beauty shine like throughout her on the outside. And that's something that I hope to have when I'm her age. And I hope I look as good as she does when I'm her age. But my favorite Bible verse of all time is Psalm 16:8. It's, for I keep my eyes always on the Lord, with him at my right hand, I will not be shaken. And I lead by that. And I told myself, if the Lord can part the Red Sea with his right hand, then what can he do with my right hand here on this earth? And I love that. And it's so promising too for me, just because I know that I've got one of those and I can make change with my right hand.
Tell me about where you hope for your, I don't want to say hope your life to end up, because that's a very big question, but let's say this year, maybe the next, because at your age, so much can and will change. Obviously, I'm sure you already
Right.
know that. You don't need me to tell you that. But over the
Yeah.
next year or so, obviously, you're studying political science and politics in the United States and everywhere. It sometimes feels very, very divisive, for better or worse. And I think that that's going to come to a head, and hopefully will resolve itself. But where do you see yourself ending up in a year or so from now, or 3 years, 5 years, when your study is done? Where is Taylor Parsons going to end up?
Oh my goodness. I would love to see myself somewhere by the ocean. I love the beach, and there's just something about being near the water. I just feel like all my worries and cares are just like stripped away. And it's just one of those things where I've always sought comfort. So I definitely believe I'll be living near some body of water. In the next couple of years, hopefully I'll be out of law school. I think it'd be an awesome achievement to have. But if I'm not, that's totally okay. I would love to have checked off that I went to Miss America, but I know that I have
Hmm.
until I'm 28 to do that. So whatever time the Lord sees, I'm completely okay with that. I know that I'm going to work hard no matter what I'm doing. And for attorney wise, I'll have 3 to 4 years of law school after I graduate. I'll hopefully graduate in May of next year from my undergrad at ETSU. And if I'm out of law school in the next 5 years, that's awesome. And I would be practicing as an asylum attorney. I was able to go on a mission trip back in March, and I served in Clarkston, Georgia, in a refugee community. And I never realized how like little resources that we give refugees when they come over.
Mm.
And I never realized, the questions that they have. I was able to sit down with a couple from Colombia and teach them the alphabet and their numbers. And it was just one of those things where we were speaking through Google Translate through our phones, because I don't speak enough Spanish to know what they were saying. And, they don't speak enough English to know what I'm saying. But we've been given this technology to be able to communicate. And being
Mm.
able to do that, it was just like I was asking them questions, asking them how, the agencies who brought them over, what they did for them. And I was able to go through trainings and seminars. And while I was there, just about what these people have to go through and who the people are doing it. And it's a severely understaffed position. So being an asylum attorney is something that I just recently realized what I need to do. And I'm really excited to do the job. And I'm excited to get these people placed and allow them to know that there are people fighting for them, and there are people that
Mm.
want them to seek this better life, because there are few, but they are mighty. And I'm a firm believer that if you have a will, there is a way. So I've got a will to do that, and I'm ready to do it, hopefully by an ocean.
Again, silly question, serious question, but silly question first. Is there any ocean in Tennessee? Tennessee is
There's
not near the
not,
ocean, is
no,
it?
yeah, no, it's
Okay.
not at all. I think the closest ocean probably like 5, 6 hours from my house. So it's like a road trip.
Okay. So there might be a little move in your future then somewhere.
Yes, I would love that. And my mom's brothers both live in Garden City, South Carolina. That's like a second
Mm.
home for me. So I could definitely see myself practicing there. Really just kind of wherever the Lord wants me to go. I've just kind of put that in his hands because there are days where I believe I know exactly where I'm headed and exactly what I'm doing. And there are other days where it overwhelms me so much. I'm just like, just take it from me, whatever you want.
Do you like going in the ocean, or do you just like being by the ocean?
I love going in the ocean. I'm going to dive in like hair wet, everything. So if I'm going to the ocean, it's going to be no makeup and natural hair.
No fear then. No, because I have
No
this a
fear.
bit of a phobia of the ocean. If I can't see it, and I'm in the obviously in Australia, the sharks is a thing, and if I'm
Okay,
in
I'm
the ocean and I
obsessed with
can't,
sharks.
well, okay, you're going to need to explain because most people, when I talk to this, they freak out. I had a guest from America stay with me for a couple of months. She was so freaked out by sharks. She had this shark app that showed where the sharks were, the tagged ones, and she would be using it even when we were walking, Taylor, on dry land. That's how scared of
No,
sharks she was. I'm like, you realize that the shark's not going to come out of the water
it
and
can't
mug
get
you,
you.
right? Right, but you're obsessed with sharks. You have to
I
explain
love
that.
sharks. Yeah, so ever since I was little, I've just had this like fascination with sharks. Every time I'm at the ocean, I look for sharks' teeth. I just think they're so cool. I do believe the conspiracy theory that the megalodon is still out there somewhere. I do not believe that they're extinct. That is a hot take for me. I have done a lot of research on sharks. I think that the hammerhead sharks are super cool, but the nurse sharks are my absolute favorite. That's just like a weird fact about myself. I love sharks. I think that they're super cool. I have actually been in the ocean with one, like swimming near us, in Garden City with my
Wow.
family.
Okay.
I was very young. My they were like weren't like telling us like what it was. They were like, just get out of the water, get out of the water. And I remember standing there looking, and I was just so fascinated. I was like, this is so cool. Like I love it. But I think in another life, I might have been like a marine biologist, maybe. I don't know.
I'm not going to see in a newspaper sometime that you got eaten by a shark, am I? Because all the ones that you mentioned, the hammerhead, the grey nose, they're all the ones that will take a chunk out of you.
Well, I know. I on my bucket list is to go cage diving. I don't know if that's something that interests you, but that is on my bucket list next. I went skydiving and checked that off
I was,
last,
yeah.
I guess July. Yeah, with one of my
Mm.
best friend. It was a birthday gift, and we had the best time. She's actually afraid of heights, but she did that. But she's just so selfless. Like she's seriously the best
God.
friend in the entire world. She knew that was something that I'd wanted to do, and she's like, "We're going skydiving for your birthday," and I was like, let's go. So now it's going cage diving. That's the next thing on my bucket list.
Megalodon, I saw someone put up a YouTube. They had these special effects because you can do so much for so little these
Yeah.
days. They had this what would happen if Megalodon attacked a boat, and they had this video of a boat like a fishing trawler, and you know how big Megalodon is. Like the Megalodon's bigger than the boat. There's also a movie. Was it Megalodon? I can't remember, but those things were huge, like incomprehensibly
Yeah,
gigantic. And are you an adrenaline junkie of some sorts? Like
I
you jump
am
out
an
of a
adrenaline
plane, now you're
junkie.
done with that. Now I'm going to dive with man-eating sharks. What's
Mhm.
next? You must
Oh
have
my goodness.
something lined up.
I have so many things. I don't have anything lined up next, but I have been like talking about, I guess, probably the next thing that might come. I would love to go gator hunting in Louisiana. That has always been on my bucket list. There was this TV show growing up I'd watch with my dad called Swamp People. I got all the merch. I had the hat, the flashlight, the t-shirt, all of it. I was obsessed with it. I thought that it was the coolest thing in the world. And these people would go gator hunting and they would like bait the lines with like these like chicken breasts and like all this different kind of meat. And like they would just wait for the gators. And then obviously like you have to like grab them up on the boat. And I was like, I can just see myself like
Jeez.
grabbing it by the tail and pulling it up on the boat. And that has been something that's been on my bucket list. I've like I'm ready to set up, ready to go, probably for the past like I guess 6, 7 months. So probably that will come next, and then we'll go cage diving with sharks.
I love that because it's so different to like what most pageant girls, they will say like, "Oh, I'm not a typical pageant girl because I will," and then they go and do Pilates or yoga. Like, no hate to that, but like
Yeah.
wrestling sharks or wrestling gators, as you say, that's like pretty much as polar opposite to a pageant stage as you can get. You talked about, and I don't know if there are catfish. in South Carolina. But what you just described, it reminds me of, is it noodling or something? And you see these
No,
Southerners,
yeah.
and they're wading in really muddy water,
Mhm.
and they
Just
catch
take
the
your
catfish,
hand.
which are huge. Yeah, you ram your hand into their tunnel or whatever it is. You wait for it
Yeah.
to bite your hand, and then you
And
pull
pull
it
it out.
out.
Yeah.
And they're
So
huge.
we
They're
actually
like
have
2 or
catfish
3
in
feet
Tennessee.
long.
Yeah,
Have you ever
they're
done that?
huge. I've never been noodling, no, but I've grown up fishing and fly. My grandfather taught me how to fly fish. I've never been noodling though. I might need to add that. I don't really know if I want like catfish like on my arm.
That's what I mean. It just sounds so terrifying. Like it's not a natural human instinct to ram your hand down a hole to get something to
Oh
bite
no.
it.
No, yeah. I'll fish with like a pole or like a fly fishing rod.
Yeah,
I don't really know
that's
about my
much more
hand.
civilized.
Yeah.
So, do you have any phobias then? I mean, I have to ask about spiders then. You're
Spiders. I
passionate about
hate spiders. That is like one thing I do not like. I am terrified of spiders. And I know Australia has huge spiders.
I find it interesting when people love one terrifying thing so much, but then so phobic of another thing. I
Yeah.
mean, a spider's not going to eat you. Um, we do have we do have some big spiders where I live, but they're not poisonous. They can bite and it's painful physically, but it's not poisonous. But they're just all over the house, and I leave them alone because they're actually an important part of nature. And one time I was
Oh
upstairs, it was
no.
dark, and sometimes you know where the light switch is, so you reach around the corner to turn your lights on. You don't need to go around and look because you know where it is. And I reached around the corner for the light switch, and I was like, that feels a bit odd. Like, why is my light switch like soft and a bit furry? I put my head around the corner, and I've been gently patting this spider, which probably was like 2 or 3 inches long. I've been gently stroking its abdomen, and it's been sitting there loving it. I could have died. Just from the fright of it. I'm not phobic of spiders, but I didn't want to pet one. And then another
I would
time
have
I was
freaked
at
out.
there was another time that was two more stories. There was another time I was at a window and I closed the window and a spider fell out of the window and landed on my hand. It was about the size of my palm. That scared the living daylights out of me. The worst one, though, I like coffee, and I was making instant coffee, so boiling the kettle, and you put the instant coffee in, and you pour the water, and it's all brown, you can't see anything. And I had a mug, doing my work, drink, get to the end of it, and I look down, and there's a spider in the cup, dead, obviously. But what must have happened? I felt sick. I didn't cry, but I felt sick. What must have happened was that the spider went in the kettle, and I didn't know. I never would have turned the kettle on if I'd known, and it boiled, unfortunately. And then I had poured it into my coffee cup, and I couldn't see it because the spider's brown, coffee is brown. And the whole time I've been drinking this, that spider has been getting closer and closer to my mouth, and then going back down. I could have actually swallowed a spider. So,
Oh
yes.
no, I would have freaked out. That no, no, no.
I'm glad to know there are some limits, because for a while, like, this girl, she's not afraid of anything. She's jumped out of a plane. She wants to wrestle sharks. She wants to wrestle gators. And then spiders. Like, okay, you are
Yeah,
human.
I am human. I do not do spiders. I would have literally the light switch one would have gotten me. I think I would have like had a heart attack. Like I would have just fallen over dead, like right there. Oh.
You wouldn't have fainted, because if you do that, the spider would have crawled on your face. So I
Oh,
promise you wouldn't have.
I
Anyway,
ran.
let's move on to something more pleasant, because a serious question I wanted to ask you is, where do you get your drive from? Because I feel like I'm speaking to a young woman here who has more drive than 99% of the people I've ever met in my life. Where does that come from?
So I'm so glad you asked me, but I don't know if you're familiar with Miss New York, America. Her name's Taryn, and she just posted a video on like just pieces of her Miss America interview, and she was talking about her love for people, and she was saying that New Yorkers are what she loves, and she loves getting to represent them. And for me, I would definitely say it's the same thing. It's people. I'm a people person. I love being around people, and they drive me to want to be better. I surround myself with people who encourage me, and they see me doing these awesome things, and they know what I'm capable of because they know I serve a big God, and they know that, nothing is impossible. for him. And I think that these people that I put myself in and I'm able to serve and I'm able to, pour into these people, whether they're older or younger, it's just one of my passions. And I absolutely love getting to serve them through pageantry and through my social impact, which is the color red, save a life, donate blood. I'm literally getting people to save people, because if you donate blood, you can save up to 3 people's lives, which is so, so, so crucial that if you're able to, that you do. And working with the American Red Cross, we are people helping people. And on a daily basis, you can help someone by smiling at them. You can help someone by holding a door open. It's these simple acts of kindness that keep me going. And it's these days where, I'm walking out of school and I've had 3 exams, I'm studying, I've got a 12-page paper due that night, and someone holds the door open for me. And it's like, that person kept me going. And that's where my drive comes from, because we're all just people trying to survive, because we're all seeking this greater thing, and that's the Lord. And until he comes back, we'll always be this people group that's seeking a savior. So, yeah.
I imagine the Red Cross was really badly affected by COVID, because no one would have been able to go out in lockdown. So that's obviously a very worthy cause. It's a very real difference that you make as well, because you literally save somebody's life. You obviously don't have a phobia of needles then.
I don't know. That is one thing. I don't love blood. I will be completely honest with you. I can deal with it.
Most people probably don't. If you said that you loved blood, I'd be a bit worried.
That's not my favorite thing in the world, but I don't mind at all to roll up my sleeve. I don't mind shots at all. That's never been a problem for me. And even like seeing the blood bags after the blood's donated doesn't bother me at all. Just rather not, watch it come out of someone unless it's controlled. Like you're donating blood, that's fine with me. As long as there's professionals there that can take care of it, that's great.
Yeah, I'm not normally squeamish. The only thing about those, I don't know if you have the same one, but here, if you go for a blood test, they have these vacuum test tubes, and they put a needle in your arm that has like a sharp, pointy thing on the other end, and you puncture the vacuum tube and it sucks the blood out of you. It's only a test tube, but it makes a sound. Like if you imagine like a tap, and it makes a sound, and then I just heard it because I got good hearing. And it's like, that's my blood that's making that gushing sound. That made me a little bit squeamish. But that's different to the Red Cross. That they wouldn't do that way, because you're donating blood, not having a blood test. Taylor, just before we go to the final 10, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to for supporting you along your journey?
Yeah, I would love to say, like, just a thank you to my mom. I really don't thank her enough for all that she's done for me and all that she does. My father passed away in September of 2020, so that was a huge adjustment for us, him physically, not being alive. And my mom has just taken on the role of mom and dad so effortlessly. And I'm so proud of her for all that she's accomplished since then, and all that she accomplished before then. She's one of those people that keeps me going, and she means more to me than she'll ever know. I'll miss school right now, so I don't live at home, and I don't go a day without texting or calling her, because that's literally just how much that she means to me.
That's amazing that she can take on both those roles, because one of those roles is hard enough. Taking on 2 is next to impossible. But let's get to these final 10 questions. So they're just random questions. Number 1, what is your favorite word?
Oh, I think I use the word slay a lot. I feel like that's a very pop culture word that I use, but I think everything is slay. And I text it all the time.
It's funny how things come and go in waves, because recently a lot of people have been saying they love the word slay, whereas even 3 years ago, no one would have said that. If you said slay, it would have been like, you mean the thing that the reindeer pull?
Yeah.
Like the sleigh. No, different. Number 2, what is your least favorite word?
Probably the word stupid. I do not like that word. I think it's very degrading and belittling, and that's one word I just don't like to use, and I don't like to hear other people use it either.
Number 3, in life, what gets you excited, or what turns you on?
Waking up each morning gets me so excited, because I know I'm given a new opportunity to do something that day.
And number 4, what turns you off?
Disrespect. That is something that I do not like at all, especially when people are rude to waiters or waitresses. That is a major red flag for me.
Yep, 110%. Number 5, what sound or noise do you love?
Ooh. that's a tough one. Oh, probably like when the oven goes off and you know you have like fresh baked cookies in the oven. So like hearing the oven go off, I always know something good is coming out of it. So that's definitely probably one of my most favorite noises.
It's amazing to me how many of you have been able to answer that question, what your favorite sound is, and turn it to something to do with food. It's like 50% of you take that question. It's like, oh, when the Uber notification turns up, or when you're at the restaurant, you hear the ding, which means your food is coming. It's like supposed to be a question about sound, and you will make it about food. Number 6, what sound or noise do you hate?
Probably like my email notification noise for school, because I have a different email for school than I have for like everyday things. So hearing that email, I know that I've got a new assignment and I don't love that. It's like a fight or flight response that I get from that.
Number 7, if you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Oh, I would love to teleport. I think that would be the coolest thing in the world. I would love to be able to teleport places just like that. So like I could come to Australia and be like, oh, I'm going there. Or I could go to England, or I could go to Washington, D.C. if I wanted to.
And you could see all the sharks that you wanted to.
I could teleport to the middle of the ocean. That would be so cool.
Okay. I don't think I've ever met anyone who's so in love with sharks before. It's very unusual. After doing more than 300 interviews, it's not very often that I'm surprised, but it's a good day when I'm surprised. Something new is good. Number 8, what job or career would you most like to attempt?
I'd like to be an asylum attorney.
And number 9, what job would you definitely not like to attempt?
I would not like to be a doctor. That is one thing that I would not like to do.
Fair enough. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Well done, my good and faithful servant. I want to live every single day to be able to get there and hear those words. If I go back before the Lord comes back, that would be so amazing. And I could just only imagine like the angels singing and being able to hear those words.
Perfect. Well, Taylor, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I had the best time.
And best of luck with your pageant journey. Please don't go and get eaten by a shark. I mean, you wouldn't even be able to give a very dramatic newspaper interview if you got eaten by a shark.
I know. Gosh, that would be such a missed opportunity. I'll have to be very careful.
Have you seen this newspaper article, by the way? I don't know, because I was reading it out to you and you said that you sounded so dramatic. It's really quite funny to see your reaction to your own words.
It's funny to see, I guess, the difference of me, and then I guess that was 3 years ago, and it's just like, man, that girl was really dramatic, and I think I'm dramatic now, but like that was a whole different level of drama. Like, oh, girl.
It did sound like you were properly traumatized, but
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been a pleasure chatting to you about everything. I'll keep you on the line for just a sec whilst I hang up with the audience. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.